Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. May I just put a quick plug into UNITA International. I'm also an adjunct professor with UNITA, and congratulations, Puvan, for winning the award. So today's session, the last one, is about talent and digitization. So we heard a lot about the infrastructure, the various policies that's needed to actually develop our cities, develop Selangor. The last piece of the puzzle is obviously talent. And without the right kind of talent, without the right kind of skills, I think all the discussions that we've had earlier may not materialize or will take longer to materialize. So with that, let me just introduce the topic officially this afternoon. It's digital transformation, how digital and digital talent can accelerate Selangor's growth. That's important. And if you look at digital technology, it will spearhead the growth of many cities, countries, and in this case for Selangor. So how do we actually leverage on talent to look at growth and prosperity and the transformation of the old economy or to the new economy of digitalization, and a lot of the opportunities and of course the challenges that it brings. So I'm very pleased to introduce, well, the panel has been introduced earlier. So what I'll do is every one of them will get 10 minutes to unpack a little bit about the topic, and then after that we'll have follow-up questions. And really I would like to have questions from the floor so that we are interactive and you reflect to us in terms of what your views and your observations are based on what the panel members will share. So let me start with, of course, MRANTI, and going through the transformation and really looking at the future. So you have the the crystal ball in front of you. So may I then ask Mood, shall I call you Mood, is that all right? Muhu? Okay, sorry Muhu. So the question that I have for Muhu is that for cities and countries and to grow and prosper, obviously talent, like I said earlier, is an important component. So with MRANTI and what you're doing with regards to moving our country forward in the digital space, what are some of your observations and your challenges and as well as opportunities when you look at the right kind of talent to be placed to actually do all these incredible things that MRANTI has in their plans? Over to you, Ndu.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the opportunity. That's a big question, actually, Prof. We'll start off with this first. I think maybe a short introduction of MRANTI. Probably some of you have heard of Technology Park Malaysia, and probably have also heard about Magic in Cyberjaya. Now, about a year and a half ago, both of these agencies were merged for one single reason. One is to be able to leverage on all the programs that have been successful to support the entrepreneurs. Second is to put them in a location where they can have a specific location for them to be able to play. When I say play, is where you build prototypes, where you build different use cases, so that these entrepreneurs have an opportunity to be able to do things much faster, lesser regulatory requirements, as well as a specific location. So MRANTI stands for Malaysian Research Accelerator for Technology and Innovation. Our mandate is actually to accelerate the technology commercialization. So interesting topic. We can see that a lot of good work has been done in the country. We see a lot of good entrepreneurs. We see a lot of IPs being built, not just from the startups, but also from the universities themselves. But if you look at the rate of commercialization, we are lacking behind. So the issue here is that we may have great ideas or even good prototypes, but somehow we are unable to bring it to the market. When I say commercialization, it means, the right market. Commercialization also means that you know how to put your product where the customers are. So that has been the biggest challenge. So one of the things at MRANTI, what we do is to identify those ideas, IPs, right? Working with states, working with universities, researchers, and put them into what we call, either we help them to seed, help them to sustain, or help them to scale. depending on which range they are in. So coming back to this topic in terms of talent, I think this is a super crucial component. We are not lacking, to be honest, of great talent. You can see out there, you can see the number of startups that have been successful. You probably have heard about, I love to talk about drone, which is one of the emerging technology, which is now from something which is just a toy, has now become a super crucial in the development of economy, right? In businesses. One of the top companies in the world for drone, Aerodyne, is actually a Malaysian company. And they're all 100% local Malaysian talent. And there are many more. One of the crucial things that we find, we have to again go back to the tertiary and secondary education, quite unfortunately. I'm not talking about education, I'm talking about the exposures that have been given to the kids, to this young talent, in terms of how do we take them to the next stage. So, I would love to chat more, but I don't want to take up too much of the time, but I think there are critical programs that are in place. We also work with the Selangor State to ensure that these talents are not lost. The other thing that we want to talk about as well in terms of the science and technology, the STIs of talent, right? Where in Malaysia, we're still seeing, after much effort being put in, we'll still see that a lot of our talent actually moving away from science and technology. So at MRANTI Park, we look at it from a perspective of focusing talent in terms of helping them, number one, to see where their passion is. Second is that to also help them to ensure that there's something that they can work on immediately, which I would love to share a bit more later. Thank you.
Brilliant. Okay, you've got a bit more time actually, but it's okay. I won't push you too much.
Yeah, being the rose among thorns, I think I would rather give chance to the lovely ladies here.
Well done, well done. Okay, thank you. So that's an overview of what MRANTI does. And I think brilliant things are being developed, and you have your blueprint and that whole area that you're going to develop as kind of the launch pad for various other innovations. So we'll talk about that later. And really thinking about talent now, how do you sort of fill the right kind of talent with the skills? If I can share a little bit, my time as the CEO of Talent Corp, a lot of the discussion was about, the brain drain. How do we then, look at strategies to bring, the talent back, if not physically, using technology, so the brain gain kind of concept. But the reality is that a lot of our high skilled talent are outside of the country, and the closest is Singapore. We spoke about Singapore earlier, right? So in the data of 2018, 1.3 million Malaysians work in Singapore, and 300,000 of them, this is 2018 data, 300,000 of them are highly qualified professionals. So when I talk to our Singaporean counterparts, I say, Malaysians are actually running the economy in Singapore, and they don't really like that. So we have to be a bit provocative. So what do we then look at in terms of strategies and having that economic growth or new things that we excite talent about for them to remain in the country? That's one. And for those who are outside of the country, come in and be part of it. And I think MRANTI is doing really interesting things that is attracting talent. So let me just switch then to Rita. And as you know, Rita is the head of government relations in Shopee. And I suppose digital talent and digital savvy talent are important for you to run your business. Maybe you can share with us some of the observations that you've seen in the tech sort of driven e-commerce industry that you're in. Where are the wins in terms of the opportunities for talent, and what are you seeing in the next 3 to 5 years? Thank you.
Thanks, Shareen. Hi, Assalamualaikum. Good afternoon. I just wanted to give you some overview on numbers. To most of us, in the 90s, I think we saw Amazon coming on board, selling books online. So that's one of the onsets of digital e-commerce, yeah. And then IDC also shared a study that by 2025, there could be 180 million new users on the e-commerce. So that's a huge potential on e-commerce coming in the next 2 years. This is led by Indonesia, and then you have Vietnam, and then you have Thailand. Malaysia, jauh lagi. Yeah, we're much smaller in terms of scale and market. But what's interesting about this number is that there'll be 30% new e-wallet users, and it's targeting the likes of Indonesia with 100 million more. That's 3.5 times bigger than Malaysia itself. So 2.5 years down the road, we will see a decline in the use of cash. And are we ready? So for Selangor itself, I think in terms of barriers to entry to this market, in terms of e-wallet, it's not going to be much of an issue lah. Internet penetration here is okay, better than the likes of the rest of the other countries. But that is in terms of data for the future. But where were we at? SME Association shared at about 1.15 million SMEs ada dekat Malaysia, and this is about representing 97% of businesses. And they employ half of our labor workforce. I'm giving you a lot of numbers, but what I'm trying to share with you is the impact of SMEs to Malaysian GDP. Half of Malaysia workforce, meaning that's about 7 million plus. Now during COVID, 15% tutup kedai. Yeah, so we don't know what's happening to them right now. Have they adopted digital ke, belum ke? So we don't know yet. So the impact is quite large. So what I'm trying to get at is there is a very strong need to transform digitally. Some of these SMEs that's on Shopee platform, for example, like Muhammad Ghazal, I'm just looking at some of my notes. He sells kerepek and he's based in Sabak Bernam, right? And now he is already selling to the likes of Singapore. Currency exchange is of course beneficial to him. He's getting 30 grand per month. So at his house area, so he's got some of his neighbors tolong goreng kerepek as well. But if you look at it, masa COVID dulu, where do you get all these bahan-bahan? So what he did was he collected some of the sayur and layu already, and then the wife helped to put in the tepung beras and then sell it. But you need to have the right platform, the right knowledge, and he, embraced digital, belajar, and how to get on the platform. Another lady, Sahida, she's got this business to also sell the keripik, but she did it not at home, but she leveraged on pusat internet. So in Malaysia, you've got more than 800 plus pusat internet, or you call it paddy centers, which MCMC helped to put in place. So these are some of the facilities which can help you to pretty much transform, right? So there is a need for a lot of us to kind of embrace it. But this is happening at the grassroots level. But businesses macam mana? I was just sharing with YB just now about our up and coming exciting project, inshallah happening in Bukit Raja. So that states how interesting and exciting e-commerce will be in the future. If we are looking at such a huge investment coming in terms of providing that logistic support, so it means that e-commerce is definitely an important element to watch digital economy. For us itself in Shopee, we've got about 20 million sellers across 8 countries that we're at. In Malaysia sahaja, we've got 2 million sellers. So kalau 2 million sellers, berapa buyers? Can you imagine the size? If you just look at the proxy of it, right? So example macam that guy yang jual keripik itu. If he sells a tub of 15 ringgit, how does he make 30,000? So can you do the maths? That's a huge potential. But you've got to get people on board. You've got to tell people it's available. How do you learn about this? It's not just, oh, I sign up today, tomorrow I jadi, kaya raya. It doesn't happen that way. I mean, if it's that easy, I think jomlah semua join Shopee. Everybody come on board. But you got to do about it. But one element that I think would be very important is talent, right? Now looking at this talent, so we help to upskill as many SMEs as possible. So talent, if you look at the whole ecosystem, ada those yang in tertiary, ada yang the moms and pops. But just looking at just the SMEs itself, what do we do for them? There is a Shopee Education Hub that's online available, public domain. You can Google it. You have it on there, and all the kursus that you want to get, it's free. You can even contact us online so that we can come and help you with your physical trainings if you like. The trainings are available in 3 languages. predominantly, of course, Bahasa Melayu lah. Bahasa Melayu, you have English, and you have Mandarin. And it covers sales and marketing, covers advertising, and even to the point where if you want to learn how to ambil gambar with that white box and make it more cantik, so we kind of teach that as well. The recent trainings, just about over the weekend, so the team went to Kuala Terengganu, they went to Kota Baru, and we also went to Kuching. Of course, this is in conjunction with International Women's Day, so we want to go and empower and upskill more women sellers. So that alone talks about how excited we are to get more sellers on board, give them more digital trainings, and I hope that in the future there'll be more people out there who will come and support more SMEs to come and upskill themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. So we talked about e-commerce and getting more digital savvy entrepreneurs to be on board. I'm a customer of Shopee, and I think most of us are. I suppose as a business that actually anchors on technology, there will be a lot of challenges on how you manage the ecosystem in terms of the entrepreneurs or the suppliers on your platform, as well as an organization as well, in terms of how you attract the right talent to run some of the businesses that is around Shopee. So we'll follow up on that a little bit in the next round. Let me just turn to our lady in red. Yuki is part of a movement. It's a global movement, and it's Women in Tech. So she's been telling me a little bit about what they do and the kind of work that, as a non-profit, in developing more women to get into the technology space, either as a career choice or even as an entrepreneur. So Yuki, you have 10 minutes to just talk to us a little bit about what you do. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, distinguished guests. I'm really honored to be here today. Just to share this timely topic, actually, not because we're always talking about this environmental social governance today. This month, 8th of March, was International Women's Day. And I've never seen so much hype or reality. I'm actually honored to be speaking at so many events that I almost lost my voice the whole month, actually. But the awareness is there. So what we at Women in Tech, a global movement, is doing is it's speared out of France. We have 45 countries right now. By end of next year, we'll be chartering to 100 countries. Malaysia chapter launched 1 year ago. Our mission is to empower 5 million girls and women to embrace technology and to close the gender gap in STEM. So not just technology, but STEM itself, science, technology, engineering, and maths. And some will call it STEAM, adding the art of recent. So what we are saying is to have more participation from women where we feel it's the most untapped resources. I would say it's the low-hanging fruits in a sense that we make up half of this planet, right? And as Rita, you mentioned, a lot of e-commerce businesses, the business owners, rightfully are women as well. And just imagine those brick and mortar businesses as well as entrepreneurship. We empower them basically by digitalizing them, giving them the tools. They participate greatly in economy, of course. And some of the examples of a successful economy, very strong ones from Nordic countries or even Hungary, my co-founder in my little startup, blockchain startup, shows that the government intervention about how to embrace that by incentivizing companies with family-friendly procurement support and all of that, that definitely enables more women participating in the economy, right? I mean, being it as a leadership in the corporate or being an entrepreneur, because you need that support, right, to be able to run from wherever you are at home. We are lucky, I think, in Malaysia, because you know, sometimes I hear that the mother or parents-in-laws are near you. You have helpers. I'm actually originally from Japan. I'm in Malaysia for more than 25 years, so I consider myself Malaysian. But I know the hard truth. In Japan, it's so impossible to do what I have been doing, quite honestly, that I can leverage on some of the helps that is impossible in Japan, for example. Still, I would like to really talk about what Women in Tech is doing is, quite honestly, to tap into the resources of women here. We have a manifesto, classroom to boardroom. So I think all our speakers have been mentioning, it's from the tertiary, I mean, as early as 5 years old, from home, at family, we have to be encouraging girls to be able to participate into greater STEM field. And I think Malaysia is not doing bad, actually. If we look at the stats, we have great numbers of STEM students. Almost, some are overrepresented in bioscientific field. Engineering is still lacking. IT is still very much lagging. So it's underrepresented, overrepresented, a bit of that. But where we have to look at is when it comes to after the graduation, right? When we get the job, we have the stats that is within 5 years, 40% of the STEM workforce drop out. So, I mean, how do we retain? And of course, Talent Corps, I know that you had some returnship program. That's one of the biggest tasks, I feel, that we need to address. And not only that, I think we need to produce more leadership role. Once we have that, we're going into different segments, classroom to boardroom. So I'm going all the way to the leadership. Leadership goes, let's say, 45% get into the workforce. And then within the first 5 years, 40% drop out. And then as we go to the leadership role, it becomes so slim. In technology companies, only the C levels drop to even below 20%. So we need to address that, because it is kind of like a gatekeeper, that it's only not a level playing field, let's say. It hinders the promotion because maybe the HR policy is a little bit skewed. There is no understanding from the leadership team that is not diverse. So a lot of things I can mention here that is all the way to that. Now we see, of course, a lot of 30% club. The government is also intervening. 30% club is coming up to put a quota of 30% top PLCs by 1st of June. Every board has to have at least 30%, one. So I think a lot of things are being done, but for us at Women in Tech is we are looking at granular points of things. I can get into, of course, not just the corporate, but also the investment part, which is the entrepreneur part. One of the biggest problem we have is the funding for women entrepreneur startup companies. Less than, it used to be 3 to 4% globally. Now, after the COVID, is less than 2%. VC-funded female co-founders are having all these funding problems, which we at Women in Tech is addressing as well. Maybe I'll stop there and then we'll continue after that.
Thank you. I think for the benefit of YB Datuk Teng, we need to zero in Selangor. What do we do in Selangor? How do we, accelerate the state's growth with the right kind of talent? So I'll pose the question to any of the panelists, and then perhaps open it for the rest of the audience here if you have questions or opinions or some observations. But really for Selangor to actually leap forward and really the talent and the skills and the expertise that we have need to actually come together. What are some of your thoughts? Perhaps we'll start with, yes, Rita.
Okay.
Thank you.
Numbers again. Well, the challenge is because in Malaysia itself, we're looking at increasing digital talent. Kan? The country needs 1.5 million talent. And I think as at last year, we've only got about 50% in the pipeline.
And I'm sorry, right now I can't remember it, but the Malaysian team swept 10 golds out of 25 countries that's participated. And these stories has to be leveraged. It's amazing. And I did ask Professor, what was the ratio of female and male? Because I'm really interested, right? But again, I think we are doing very, very good up to the university level. We talk about how help, I think you also mentioned that you get snapped out to Singapore and all of that. So here I'm doing my part that Malaysia, we can have these APAC awards and to be seen overall. And I think that's a bit of what I can contribute as well.
Thank you. Any questions from the audience? Yes, I see a lady with a hand up. Identify yourself.
Hi, hello all again. I'm Nikki Kamal from Yayasan Sejahtera. We work on poverty alleviation for the B40s in Malaysia. So my question is, this session talks about growth of talents and stuff. Is there any plans to include the B40? You mentioned about digitalization for women and such. What about the B40 female youth in Selangor? Is there any plans to actually include them in? And if there is, what have Selangor been up to for this? And how do you foresee this to be an enabler to move the urban poverty right up one level so that they can get out from urban poverty? Thank you.
Thank you. And technology is supposed to be a democratic tool for everyone to have access, but unfortunately there is, the digital divide. How do we solve that is the question, especially for those who really don't have access. And sometimes in this room we talk about access and we take it for granted. There are people who are excluded from that. So thank you for that question, Nikki. Anyone on the panel, if you have any insights on how we be more inclusive and sort of close the digital gap, their talent and untapped potential as well. Right?
Yeah, thank you for the interesting question. I won't be able to say on behalf of Selangor. I think that's not fair. I'm sure Selangor is doing a lot of great stuff. But I think first of all, I do agree with you. I think technology goes beyond, and the specific groups of people should be supported, right? And let's look at it from what are the type of opportunities that are there for them. I think for B40s, for example, we look at the kind of challenges that they face, right? For example, is from a day-to-day activities, can digital support them? Second is from an employability opportunities. Third is, of course, from a revenue generation opportunities. So there are several, I don't want to name the agencies, but at the federal level, stuff that have been done around gig economy, for example. Yeah? Gig economy, as you know, it's an opportunity that cuts across. You have pooled opportunities where you can use your skills, whatever level you have, and tap into it and build a secondary revenue opportunity. Even as simple as Grab, working with Grab and all that, right? Second is there are also work done, for example, by MCMC. We have Pusat Internet Desa and all this, where digital literacy, right? So urban poor is a major concern, right? Urban poor. And we see them actually having a lot of opportunities but not getting those things. So digital literacy, every one of us today can use a simple smartphone, right? Everyone has a smartphone, even B40 if you look at them, because the cost has gone down much lower and accessibility is there. Everyone uses Grab, for example, right? Or Shopee, right? Can we extend that further? Rather than just being a consumer, can we change them to become what we call a prosumer, right? You produce content, you produce information. And I think within the B40s, this is already happening. Many of them have been given the opportunity to get into e-commerce. I think that's the biggest work that's being done. We're seeing, like, for example, Rita, you just gave an example just now, right? In terms of how people are leveraging on the things that they can do. Rather than just selling to 10 people, can I go online and sell it to 100? It is possible. So that's being done. Of course, the other one is in terms of problem solving, right? A lot of urban poor have accessibility issues. They have problems in terms of communicating with the local council, right? I'm not sure if people are aware that actually Selangor has got one of the top-notch, what do you call this, the local council system. If I'm not mistaken, is the only state in the country that's got all the municipal councils linked up together. So the Selangor state actually has got an opportunity to look at all the data, right, from all the levels of people in the country. None of the other states have this because each of the local councils, they're very strong and usually they just want to keep the system to themselves. So this is an opportunity. Selangor has it ready. The data is there. You know who are the B40s. You know some of the concerns. My suggestion would be that look at it from a problem-solving perspective, which I mentioned the two things just now. Thanks.
I'm just looking at the organizer to see where the time is up. But there are questions from the floor, so if you can indulge us a little bit more. Yes, please, to the mic. You're the architect, I remember. Sharifah. Yes.
Assalamualaikum, good day. Yes. Again, I've already mentioned who I am, but I also would like to enlighten that I have created a platform. It's called Kayo Malaysia. Kayo Malaysia is meaning the cycling is a tool to connect people to people, as well as the governance, to basically to synchronize the digital as well as online, offline, and on-ground channel of communications. Okay, my question is, at this point of time, we have such a massive issues on synchronizing the federal along with the state. Am I right? Okay. So, we have a program which we offer free education, personalized to these listed B40 as well as those who are underprivileged. And we have also connect with the international, not an agency, it's a group of game changers, which we believe that it will help the entire nation as well as would help in terms of communications between the federal and state without any of, to overcome this challenge, yeah? So, my question now is, how do we, because first of all, our focus is on health ecotourism, yeah? Number two is free education. And all these are very good and beneficial, and it's also mutually benefit the entire society. So how do we, which division or the portfolios that we, on the other hand, need to outreach, to channel these good things to the society? Thank you so much.
Okay, a lot in that question. Who dares to answer?
A lot, okay. How do you want, sorry. If it's a lot, first of all, my big question is,
Yes.
which division? Who do we go to? Which portfolio? You know, because we have communication digital. If let me say that I am under MDEC, right? So who is the only one person that I need to go that will help to align the rest? Because it's very hassle. It's such a hassle to actually outreach this group.
You're talking between federal to state and then
Yes,
state at
yes,
the local
yes.
council and
Yes.
all the way. Okay.
Yes, please advise. Thank you so much.
That's YB's question, no? I'm kidding, sorry. Rita.
Okay, hi. Let me just try this. So you're asking who you can reach out to help you coordinate this further, right? So in terms of education, I would recommend for you to speak with Mohi. But if you're looking at on the ground execution, training on the specific courses, going down specifically to certain groups of people, then you would need to identify where they are at. Are you then looking at the PPRs? If you are looking at the PPRs, then you would have to approach KPKT. Because these are not specific, what's the right word? Maybe not MQA related courses, but it would be something that you are aligning in providing them with digital related knowledge. So going direct to the PPR, I would recommend to go to KPKT because you would need to talk to the PPR managers and provide them with those courses.
I think Sharifa's wish list is a one-stop center, right? Okay, she's running
sorry,
through
just a
mic now.
Sorry, quick one, yeah? Because I have already served the PMO, I've already served the government on project basis. This is what I have come across. There's always a contradiction between the department. You know, you get what I mean? I have experience work in the governance itself on project basis. So I have come across a very challenging situation because it involves three intersections, you know? Because it's also good for the image branding for Malaysia, right? So when you have this problem, let's say you say KPKT, but you need the endorsement from the maybe PMO, you need the endorsement also, yeah? Because why? Because
A question for you, ma'am. Why would you need endorsement from PMO?
because we are putting it in a way as a national mission. National mission. I used to work for a national mission in 2012. I also used to work for 2018. So right now, we want to establish this as a national mission to make sure that this is actually progressive and it is activated. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that there needs to be a bit more focus on what is it that you want to do, because as you know, the ministries at federal and of course at the state level is structured to focus on certain aspects of the national development or growth, right? So unfortunately, we don't have a one-stop center or helpline to resolve all your issues and your questions. No government has that, let me tell you that. So you have to be working within the system and get champions. Talk to your MP. They are elected to represent you. They have, you know, the voice in the parliament. If you have real issues, then bring it up to your MP. There's many ways and many channels to do it. I'm sorry we're not able to resolve your challenges, but it is what it is, and it's not just a Malaysian situation, unfortunately. Okay, good. Any other questions besides what we've discussed? I've got a bit more time. The organizers say we can go up to 4:15, or we can close it soon if there's not enough energy to continue. We're sitting between you and the traffic jam outside. We're very conscious about that. But I think we're getting quite good sort of conversations going. So let's do another like 10 minutes or so before we wrap up. And thank you, Webby, for staying throughout. Oh, okay.
Sorry, I have one more
When the
question.
women take the microphone, I'm scared. Yes, Nikki.
One more question. Because I remember Shopee did an affiliate program, MOU, with UiTM. And I think a few of the universities are signing up with Shopee. I think you are leveraging on the affiliate marketing to actually generate income for the students. I don't know if you are aware of the program. Can you hear me or not really?
Sorry, because the echo. You're asking about an MOU between Shopee and UiTM.
Okay, I understand that there have been agreements going on between Shopee and universities to get the students to actually do affiliate marketing. Yeah, they have been signing up, I think last year. So is there any way we can actually, because I'm looking at the perspective of the yayasan who works with the B40s, and these are not really the community in the universities, but there are youths in Batu Pahat, in Sik, in Baling, in Kelantan, Tumpat. These are the people, the youth, they probably don't really have the means to actually go to the universities because of probably financial lacking and stuff like that. But there are potentials that you can actually work with this group. So as Shopee, how do you foresee we can actually collaborate to actually help the underserving communities to actually increase their income? Most likely they might not even have an actual product to push to the marketplace. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. Definitely yours.
Okay, definitely mine. Okay, so one of the efforts that we are actually doing very actively right now is upskilling the SMEs as a whole, not necessarily just B40s, right? So whether it is offline or online, offline usually we try as much as possible to leverage on the PEDI centers or areas where the organizers would prefer for us to go down to the ground. So that's number one. Number two, now what do they do with the skills that they have? Either they would come down and to do the selling themselves, or there's an area which they would like to look at, which is jadi the one yang market the barang lah, which leveraging on Shopee Live and stuff. But all of this needs education. Betul? Okay. So we've got those courses, like I mentioned just now. So there is this thing called Shopee Education Hub. Yeah, it's available. Kalau you Google sekarang, given that the Wi-Fi is kuat, you can tengok. It even tells you from A to Z of the getting on board, the whole logistics thing, you know, how do you get your vouchers, semua ada. So that's the education part of it. Unfortunately, I'm not able to share more on the commercial side. I think that one we can take it offline and discuss lain. But we do our best to help the B40s. Banyak. Even recently, we try to help them with the back to school punya program, vouchers for the B40s, not back to school. Because if you look at this month, kita ada back to school, we just started today, nak beli uniform. And then we've got puasa coming up in the next few days. And then you got raya. So 3 big things happening at this 2 months. Banyak nak belanja. You know, one head to toe kit can cost more than $100. RM100 lebih. Then you've got the Ramadan, you've got the Raya. So that's why we come down and said, let's help with as much as possible. And then you got the banjir, kan? So support and CSR is of course another arm that we try to help the B40s at the moment. So getting them the right assistance and support. So the education bit goes there, and then also in terms of the CSR needs. But how do we then help them to get the income for us, because we are a platform? I hope you understand that. Yeah, it is not something where if you get on our platform, kita bayar you. It doesn't work that way. Yeah, platform dia macam highway. So any other cars can go on it. Kita nak jual barang, but kena ikut undang-undang lah. You cannot jual barang-barang terlarang. If you want to sell even like the beras, it has to follow the regulation. You have to have the right certification, which we also approach the likes of other agencies and ministries, and to say, how do you then support these sellers kalau dia nak jual? You know, how do they get the right certification? How do they get the right support? So I think that one would be able to assist them lah. Yeah. Yes.
Good. The gentleman again. Thank you.
Sorry again, Miss Rita, I think. I
Rita,
wanted to
yeah.
ask, for Shopee, we have a platform for products. What about services? Cleaning services, autogate services, all these services, home services like that we need. We need a maid to mop the house, but it's impossible for us to find. We have to look for the trees, maid, 01, the phone numbers. We don't have a platform for all home services at one place. As in, because I am currently running a cleaning service while being a student. So I feel like this platform is very important for services as well. Because 2 years ago, I approached KPT because they had this Shopee program for students. So they said they wanted to market my service there, etc., etc. Government change, collapse. So what is the right place, not government dependent, basically company dependent, for services to provide the platform and promote the platform to all in Malaysia? That's all.
Okay, so that's actually an opportunity for any of the entrepreneurs here nak start a platform. Maybe something Selangor can come up and then YB Tank dah angkat tangan. Because if you look at it, right, for Shopee, the categories that we put up, they're not service related lah. Yeah, because bila mana any of the sellers nak jual barang, we have to get them to register, and then they've got to look at some of the products that they do. In fact, one of the things that I think we do very well is to help the sellers on the international punya program. we have this thing called SIP. It's an opportunity for them who gets very good rating, 5-star, you're a preferred seller, and then of course you don't have that banyak complaint, then you can sell to the countries like Singapore or Thailand or Philippines. So that's one of the things that we also provide to sellers. But if you look at it, services and somehow...
Yeah, if I can just add, okay, Shopee is all encompassing of products. I think for services, there are a lot of other platforms as well. It depends on what is it that you're looking for. I think a lot of the startups that Magic in the early days sort of incubated were anchored in some good sort of solutions or platform for services if you're looking for gig economy talent and things like that. So the platform that I created and I co-founded, it's called GigX Global. That's for services and for talent who want to do gig work, but more senior people who have specific skills that then, they want to offer for 3 months, 6 months kind of work for client. Sorry? gigxglobal.com, sorry, and yeah. I'll talk to you separately, yeah. So we need to have other platforms that provide other kind of services, because when they focus, they go deep, they do better in terms of matching what the customer needs are, right? So kudos to Shopee for all products. There are other good platforms who do services as well. So on that note, it's closing time, unless some burning question in the, okay, the gentleman. We're getting a lot of questions, aren't we? Can MRANTI and Yuki speak as well?
Sure. I guess my question is more a bit more general.
Okay.
When we talk about digitalization, sometimes it is at the expense of the social impact. For example, when you scale up your digitalization initiative, then you might affect the talent retention. So, and another example is that Shopee recently launched S-Loan, right? S-Loan, meaning it's a loan facility up to 120,000 ringgit. So I guess the social impact is that the risk of defaulters might increase. And I guess my question is that for the first one, how do companies find the right balance in the sense that when you upscale your digitalization initiative, and also employee retention. Like for Shopee, I guess when you have voluminous transactions or in your logistics or delivery, perhaps you can maintain your delivery drivers, but you scale up in the sense that you use, similar to Amazon Prime Air, you use drone. I guess that's just an example that I can think of. Yeah, so and for the loan facility part, what do what does Shopee implement to curb or to mitigate defaulters?
So I'm going to be the moderator and sort of shift a little bit. You can address it directly, and then you move to the other two panelists. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to echo the moderator kat sini. Kita berat
Thank
sangat.
you, YB.
Thank you, YB.
Thank you.
YB dengar defaulter je, dia pun keluar YB. Okay, so we work very closely with the enforcement teams. Yeah, we try our best to provide awareness as well to the public. Kalau ada pasal scam awareness ke, we also share, please don't click on this, don't click on that. And then macam be a savvy shopper. I mean, if you look at the app, you would see a lot of these things that we try our best to advocate lah, all this awareness. Yeah. Steps kita nak ambil, saya bukan regulator. Yeah. So I need to put that disclaimer in terms of how kita nak tengok defaulters tu. Ya, bukan. Yeah. I think platform untuk soalan tu kena ada bila ada regulator ke apa kat sini. Yeah. But yes, we do a lot of that awareness programs to all our shoppers and also to our sellers. Yeah. To make sure that they follow the rules, follow the guidelines. We do that on a very frequent basis.
You want to add?
So let me just get your question right. You were saying digitalization impacts talent retention?
place.
Yeah, so I need to challenge you a bit on the question. My apologies. In the 80s, yeah, if you, again, I'm not sure how old you are, when, or maybe even slightly before that, the banks introduced ATM machine, yeah, auto teller machine. And there was a huge hue and cry because, you know, the associations of banks, they're super strong. They were worried that all the tellers in front there, those people that you see, all of them are going to lose their job because machines are going to take over. But what happened down the road? Not many of them lost their job. What happened was that they found an opportunity in the digital space. Right? They became consultants, specialists. The auto teller that you see just exchanging money, they upskilled, number one, because the organization gave them the space. Second is they wanted to make a change. So I think this is two critical components we need to see. The willingness of the employees to embrace change, because today you have to unlearn and relearn, right? So there's a mindset that's really important. The second is that the opportunity given by the organization. So similarly, I worked quite closely with in my other life, or my previous life, before I joined MRANTI, I worked very closely on digitalization. I built a lot of programs. I work with SMEs right up to large corporations. And the biggest challenge is, number one, is that the corporations themselves don't want to go digital because they think this is something alien. But when they go digital, they forget the employees. So I think your concern stems from there. But today what the businesses are doing is they build opportunities in digital together with the employees. We're seeing that already, especially post-pandemic. So the biggest question that I'm seeing now is the employees themselves, right? How are they embracing digital? As I've said just now, we cannot run away from the digital wave today. Whether we are just a simple foreman, right, doing some just, even that, I'm sorry to say that, but even foremen today, right, they actually look at YouTube and learn. They don't need their bosses to teach them how to do work. Right up to corporate leaders who have no choice but to use digital social media, for example, to be able to communicate, to be an influencer. So I'm sorry, I'm not quite, you're right to see that, but what I'm saying is let's look at it from a different perspective, that talent today, it's a lot more, the digital space is empowering us to do so much. The question is, are we making that change?
Yuki, you had something you
Yes,
wanted
yes,
to
I
add?
just
Yeah.
wanted to add, anchoring, I think, Muhu as well, that by 2030, I think the stat says that the job today may be halved, but again, then the other half would be the opportunity, right? So digitalization in cross-skilling, upskilling, you just have to seize the opportunity. Like during the pandemic, I think I've heard that a lot of real estate agents lost their jobs, but now we have real estate in metaverse, you know, so that there's always a job created for the digital world that comes. Out of the 10 most sought after jobs by 2030, 8 is STEM related. So I think whether you like it or not, just, you know, learning from YouTube and all of that, it doesn't have to be like you have to go to school and all that. Simple tools where I think e-commerce obviously is a good example as well. I'm speaking from all different angles, but there are always, if you want to be creative, you want to seize the opportunity, it's all out there. It's, I think, you know, what doesn't kill you make you stronger as well, right? Yeah, so I think I'm taking everybody's snippets of the gist and rounding up.
Thank you. So we're going to close the session with one last question to the panel members and anchoring it back to Selangor. I have to go back to True North and really talking about, you know, digital talent. So my last question to the panel is that, you know, for us to compete for talent, because obviously there is a lot of competition for good talent. What is Selangor's competitive advantage now or in the future that you see? Vis-a-vis other markets, other cities, Singapore comes up very often when we talk about talent, but you know, there is a leverage that Selangor could have that you could actually then either anchor on or sort of push forward, right? So what's that competitive advantage? What's that secret with Selangor that we could actually unlock to then be competitive with other cities? To start with Yuki. And all the way here. Yeah. Thank you.
May I? Okay, Selangor. Of course, I mean, the greater KL, right, I may, we're still, I have to also, my north is women in tech, so I have to go into that as well. But again, we're still new, 1 year after launch, and we have done so much of the advocacy. So we are seeing what we are doing in education, talking with the government agencies, the policies, policymakers, to academia. We need to collaborate, right? So the conversation is always who is doing what. And I think there are a lot of opportunities in terms of retention, right? I just had in British Council last Saturday, the opportunity that British Council Malaysia is cooperating with 3 UK universities, and they're giving full scholarship for women. And what struck me was that they're even facilitating accompanying kids, like your kids. You know, it's well thought. And they're saying that in hopes that this is for Malaysian women, right? So this is, master's and postgrad. So obviously you might have kids, you want to pursue your post, and the facilitation is there. And again, the creativity, once they come back, you know, we have to make sure, Selangor has to make sure that they will come back and then leverage on that as well. Yes, I think I'm saying all of these because these are the leaky pipe problems. I'm just suggesting, basically, because all of you here could have the voice, technically speaking, and that's my 2 cents. And this year I'm honing into really going into an action to how we can move things.
Brilliant. Thank you. Muhud, how do we be competitive for Selangor? Leverage on that. Thank you.
Sure. I think I've highlighted some of it earlier. Selangor obviously is, before that, can I have a show of hands? How many here are from Selangor government agencies? Government agencies, okay. SMEs? Corporate? GLCs?
Startups. Should have done that earlier.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
University, one table there.
Academia, of course.
Academia.
Critical. No, I think first of all, the focus. See, in Malaysia, we love to do a lot of things. Sometimes we get caught in the multifaceted approach that we take, which is great maybe from a policy perspective, but when it comes to implementation, sometimes it can be a little challenging. Especially if you are one of the states being looked at as an example, and that the challenge even becomes greater. Some of the things that I see happening, again, I know there were a lot of comparison to our neighboring country, China and all that. I personally don't believe in that, because if you don't know what you're doing, no point comparing. So what are we doing? If we want to compare, we take the best and the worst and compare from what we are doing. Right? If we have no clue, or we have limited understanding of what we're doing, then we're just going to copy and paste. But on that note, I need to share this, something that I just recently experienced in Barcelona. So I had a chance to attend the Mobile World Congress, which is the largest tech commercialization congress in the world. Over 80,000 people came, and unfortunately after that I got COVID. No choice about that. But what I've learned is I had a chance to visit a location in Barcelona called 22 at Barcelona. Have anyone heard of this, please? 22 at Barcelona. So it's just an interesting concept that's happening today beyond parks, where they are now creating innovation districts. So take Puchong, for example. Puchong is an excellent innovation district. Take Shah Alam, right? Rather than looking at it from a park perspective or specific location, what Barcelona has done is they converted almost an unused or I would say an industrial location, right, which is about close to 400 acres of land, and so there are buildings there, there are owners there, right? It is not owned by government. It is owned by corporates, SMEs. There are old plantation there. There are clothing manufacturing companies and all that. But what the government did was they looked at, from a policy perspective, can I convert this location, which is just on the outskirts of Barcelona, into an innovation district? So, number one focus they did was talent. And what they did with the talent I thought was very interesting. They look at talent as citizen, right? So when we look at talent, we look at, okay, how do we bring in talent and all that? They looked at it, I don't care where you're from, I look at you as a citizen. What does that mean? They created a one-stop shop, which now, you're coming, are you a local? Okay, fine. What do you need? Children's schooling, for example, right? Education part, universities and all that for your family, what do you need? Are you coming from abroad? What do you need? Visa? What do you need, from your kids' preparation for them to be there? So the district provided everything. So within 10 years, slightly more than 10 years, they created about 8,000 jobs. They got about 400 companies. One example, I saw this weird building, which is an old, dilapidated building, which even from outside you see it's a little odd. The owner of that building wanted to convert this into a hotel. Now, the policy says that 22 at Barcelona, which is a council, dictates what can be done. So what the council said, no more hotels, we want that to be an office space. So the developer had no choice, the owner of the building, I think they get some incentives, they converted that to that. Today, we have guys like Facebook, Google are all basically in that space. Very interesting. Outside looks not so interesting, inside is really good. So the idea of citizen, rather than talent, changed the whole mindset. What is it that you need to be able to be there? So they work there, they play there, and they actually have their life there. So I think that's really interesting. And today we have got many different innovation districts coming out in the world. Porto Digital, which is in Brazil. We've got one in China. We've got Milano in Italy. Melbourne Innovation District is coming up. So I think this is something that perhaps Selangor could also envision. Maybe they are already some, but I think they're still very much anchored by a specific, like a park or industry-centric. But when you look at it from an innovation district, you have no choice but to bring in the academia in, right? There are 10 universities there. That's the first thing they look at. Hey, how many universities can support this? And then they look at the corporates. Hey, who can I invite to come in and support? And then they look at the SMEs, and then comes the talent. So I think that's something that I would leave today's discussion for you.
That's inspiring. We all need to go to Barcelona and visit that district. Okay, Rita.
I hope MRANTI and Technology Park, Bukit Jalil can be the next
MRANTI
innovation
is
district.
Be the next
and I would love to invite you to come to MRANTI Park, because some of the stuff I spoke about is actually being done now here. And MRANTI Park, just to add a bit of plug-in, we have 686 acres there. Only 300 acres have been developed. We have phase 3, which was just launched last year, which is actually some announcement recently made by the Prime Minister. I can't mention what it was. We're all actually going to be done at MRANTI Park. So we're getting a lot of big tech companies are now looking at the park. Why? Because we changed the concept of just being a land owner or developer into a community builder. So what we've done is suddenly now we're attracting a lot of startups coming in. Because startups are coming there, the corporates also would want to have their presence there. So if you are within this space, would love to have more discussions with you. Perhaps you can also consider. You don't have to be in MRANTI Park, but you can benefit from the programs, initiative that MRANTI has, which is nationwide. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you for that plug. Okay, Rita, you have the last couple of minutes for us to close. Thank you. Competitive advantage for Selangor.
Okay, so what would be very interesting for Selangor is if you look at Shopee consumer trends that we've done a recent survey, there are 3 big trends that we're looking at is to increase savvier digital services. 8 out of 10 of our respondents said that they agreed to increase product discovery. They would like to make more purchases online and more hyper-local campaigns. So what does this mean for Selangor? So if we have Selangor products, what exactly do you bring out when you go back from Selangor? That's a unique product, Do we have any? If you go to the East Coast, it's either the gopok lekor lah, nasi tumpang lah, things like that. But from Selangor, what would that be, you know. And then also grow adoption of digital services outside of big cities. Seven of our sellers wish to reach buyers in East Malaysia. So the opportunity, you know, for Selangor. Some of the products that perhaps the sellers here or SMEs here have, that would be of a unique selling proposition to people in East Malaysia. And also the rise of younger sellers. Yeah, 50% of the buyers are interested to cater to value-based shoppers who support local made in Malaysia products, you know, or even like Shopee gives back efforts. So now you see a different trend of buyers. Shopee itself on our platform, we have a particular button where you can put your donations, and these are actually channeled to via NGOs to the deserving recipients. Yep, correct. So we do work very closely with other NGOs as well to make sure that's channeled. So if you look at these trends, there are definitely opportunities for e-commerce in Selangor. And let's hope that we can get some support from the government for us to move with some of the impactful campaigns. Yeah.
Great, thank you. This has been a great session, and all of you have been a great audience and for your participation and questions, tough and easy ones. Please join me in thanking our panelists, Yuki, Muhud, and of course, Rita. Hello? Yes? Thank you.